In what looked like damage control, the U.S. Press Secretary, Karoline Leavitt, on Wednesday held a press conference at the White House, trying to clarify the statements her principal, President Donald Trump, made in the previous day that the United States will take over the ownership of the land and rebuild Gaza Strip for people all over the world to settle as economic center, with the press secretary making apparent contradicting statements that Donald Trump only meant that Palestinians in Gaza would be transferred temporarily to Egypt, Jordan and other neighboring countries of humanitarian hearts to enable the U.S. rebuild the city before the return of the Palestinian citizens, adding, the U.S. will not pay for the rebuilding of the city in the Middle East that have been in conflict with Israel for decades. According to the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, President Donald Trump has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza, and that the U.S. would not pay to rebuild it. Karoline Leavitt said President Trump's historic proposal for the United States to take over Gaza shows he is an outside-of-the-box thinker, adding that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. When asked by ABC News reporter Mary Bruce if President Trump would remove Palestinians from Gaza by force, Karoline Leavitt said that Trump is prepared to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians and all people in the region, peace-loving people who want real economic development. In a related development, the White House press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, said that 461 illegal immigrants, out of more than 8,000 that have been arrested, have been released from federal custody for several reasons, including lack of detention availability. Since Tuesday, U.S. officials have continued to defend President Donald Trump's plans that Palestinians in war-shattered Gaza should relocate to neighboring countries, saying the president was trying to look at the problem realistically, not imposing a solution. Some of the officials stressed that the U.S. wants to work with its Arab partners and Israel to come up with creative solutions to the challenge. 5 Arab foreign ministers and a senior Palestinian official sent a joint letter to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Monday, opposing plans to displace Palestinians from Gaza, according to local media. Trump said the U.S. will be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous, unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the destroyed buildings and create economic development in the area. When asked who he envisions living in Gaza after it is rebuilt, Trump said, the world's people, including Palestinians. Local media reported on Wednesday that the White House faced backlash from U.S. lawmakers and allies who did not support the proposal, many saying Palestinians should be allowed to stay on their land and that it would make tensions in the region worse. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth told reporters before his own meeting with Netanyahu that the president was willing to think outside the box, look for new and unique, dynamic ways to solve problems that have felt like they were intractable. We had earlier reported that, on Tuesday, President Donald Trump of the United States, U.S. apparently passed across 2 interesting messages during the press conference held at the White House with the visiting Israel Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying at first that Gaza is a symbol of death and destruction where the people who have been living in the Gaza Strip were living in a miserable existence, hence once rebuilt the people who have fought to keep the Gaza city shouldn't occupy the place again, calling on Egypt, Jordan and other countries of interest to build new domains or new settlements in the neighboring countries for the 1.8 million Palestinians that will be transferred out of Gaza. And by second statement, Trump said U.S. will take over the ownership of the land, rebuild and make Gaza an economic center for people from different parts of the world, including Palestinians, to occupy.
On Gaza, the president has spent basically his entire public career criticizing foreign entanglements, nation building, sending American troops to fight abroad, particularly in the Middle East. This plan seems like it could ultimately involve all of those things. Can you explain this reversal and how building and owning Gaza squares with America First foreign policy?
I would reject the premise of your question that this forces the United States to be entangled in conflicts abroad. The president has not committed to putting boots on the ground in Gaza. He has also said that the United States is not going to pay for the rebuilding of Gaza. His administration is going to work with our partners in the region to reconstruct this region. And let me just take a step back here, because this is an out-of-the-box idea. That's who President Trump is. That's why the American people elected him. And his goal is lasting peace in the Middle East for all people in the region. And as I said in my opening remarks, we've had the same people pushing the same solutions to this problem for decades. And it's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort. It means Donald Trump, who is the best deal maker on the planet, is going to strike a deal with our partners in the region.
He did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet. He has not made that commitment, and you know that.
And on the foreign partners, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, the Saudis have already panned this plan. What foreign partners, if any, have expressed any interest in being part of it?
Well, the president has said he's been socialing this idea for quite some time. He's been thinking about this. He said in his remarks last night, this was not a decision or an announcement that he takes lightly. And the president has already spoken to the President al-Sisi. In fact, that was his first foreign leader call. He's meeting with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, next week. He spoke with the King of Bahrain. He spoke with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. And he has made it very clear, he's been very vocal, that he expects our partners in the region, particularly Egypt and Jordan, to accept Palestinian refugees temporarily so that we can rebuild their home. I'd like to show you some images of Gaza that were taken. Fox News aired this. I mean, that is, as they put it, an apocalyptic scene in Gaza. This is an uninhabitable place for human beings. Do you really think that families can live their dream in a region that looks like this, with no running water, no electricity? And the special envoy to the president, Steve Witkoff, recently traveled to Gaza, as you all know. And he came back with images that he showed the president of the dire situation here. And the president made this decision with a humanitarian heart for all people in the region.
The president and you here again today have made clear, given the devastation, you think Palestinians have no choice but to leave Gaza and go elsewhere. But Palestinians say this is their home. They don't want to go. The president last night said he's willing to use the military if necessary. Is the U.S. prepared to remove Palestinians from Gaza by force?
The president is prepared to rebuild Gaza for Palestinians and all people in the region, peace-loving people who want real economic development and opportunity in the region. This is a region that has been controlled by Iranian-backed terrorists, Hamas, who have brutalized not just Israelis but Palestinians too. It is because of Hamas that you see those images on that screen, that Gaza has become a demolition site, because Hamas launched that brutal attack on Israel on October the 7th. And so again, I would stress, President Trump wants to ensure that this can be a place where all people can live in peace. He is a peacemaker in chief. He made that very clear in his first term. And as for how that will be accomplished, the president and his team are talking with our allies in the region to consider next steps.
But should the American people be prepared to see U.S. military on the ground fighting a ground war against Hamas?
Again, the president has not committed to U.S. troops in the region.
But it is an option.
I have said that the president has not committed to that yet.
Forces who are connected, bringing you the news in a more digital way.